I do believe in redemption. I believe in salvation. I believe that those things are in the hands of the individual. I believe that we can arise from the most tragic of circumstances and we can rise to a place that is worthy of respect and that carries the energy of nobility with it. You know, there's a story, Frank Dalton, who had a stroke some years ago, um, decided one day when his beautiful wife, Kate, my sister, was yakking up the hill, that he and I were tired of waiting in the car. So he got this little grin on his face, and he opened the door and kind of nodded to me to close it, and he moved over to the driver's side and put the key in and began to drive away. And wisely, his wife just ran into the passenger side and didn't say a word. Well, within the next 2 days, Frank was driving me into town. He was driving me wherever I needed to go because my eyesight is not so great, and it's my public service to the nation that I don't drive. But here I had a man who was challenged by a stroke some years ago driving me around. And this person who I love very much and loves me came running up. Did I just see Frank Dalton driving you around? I looked and smiled and I said, I'm the worst kind of shaman. I'm the one that believes his own bullshit. And I said, it's pretty good bullshit today. You know, hey, if he had crashed into something, I would have been able to slow things down a little bit. But he didn't. You know, and it's all about the story of Shay. And Shay had traumatic brain injury when he was a child. He was in a car accident. He was thrown from that car in his child safety seat, which broke in half. And, you know, he went to an institute school for a while where they basically teach people who survived this simple things, writing checks, etc. But Shay's family was never going to have that kind of life for him where the challenged settle for anything. You know, he's the three-time state champion for a three-dimensional bow, and he was a wrestler, and he's a blacksmith, and he's a fire artist, and a carver, and he is one of the most observant people, and what a beautiful being he is. And he's overcome these things against all odds. But at the institute, in one of the classes, they asked him, what do you fear? And some of the kids that were there were blind, some were deaf. They had traumatic brain injury. There are other problems. And what he said was, I'm afraid of being blind or deaf. So the way that he dealt with that situation was he taught the blind archery. And as some of you know, Shay is my chosen successor as king. And, God is willing, I will have a lot of time to work with him on that. Because that is the kind of leader that, order and the court needs. Respect limitations and challenges, but don't let them define you. So, I've had a lot to process. I was amused when one of my friends who actually, has a pretty large responsibility for some of the things that happen. And he said, well, everything has a reason now. And I'm thinking, yeah. Well, guess what? By that theory, the universe probably has it in mind for down with you to talk about how you are applying esoteric theory to your life. You know, it's all fine and good that we have our lessons to learn in this life. That's, that's a part of it. But sometimes you want to say, could you please learn your lesson, 7 miles down the road and 5 houses to the left, because I've been through this before. Nevertheless, people of good heart, you try to stick by them. You try to help them the best that you can. You are always going to have people that just don't know how to get off the pity pot. And one must remember, the pity pot, the porcelain goddess. Oh yes, indeed, you can worship at it, but it's still a toilet. You know, you sit down, you do business, you wipe up nicely, you flush, you wash your hands, a nice little towel dry, and you move on to let the next person do it. You don't dwell in the stink. People who get consumed with self-pity in my life, certainly in the life of Shay, and those of us that have had to endure great physical challenges in this life, never mind emotional ones, because I sit and listen. But, what we're thinking as we're listening might not really appeal to you if you are somebody that consumes yourself and drowns in the self-pity. There are extraordinary events that come up in this life where there are problems, where there is suffering, etc. But so disrespectful to your fellow beings that you think that you're the only one that is going through that, the only one that ever has. Nobody has problems as bad as you do, which is not true. So I'm going to continue to fight as I have. I am going to rise above my circumstances. I'm going to do my best to help people override their circumstances. I'm going to continue to apply this philosophy of healing through art. I am going to be less disposed from people. Say, after the last 6 or 7 people I have had to put out of my life, no one is indispensable. If you are carrying a torch of misery with you and you are trying to ignite that in the hearts of others because you are doing a disservice to yourself and to your fellow beings. It is an infectious disease negativity. Okay? If it is allowed to get into someone, it can consume them, and it has a rippling effect. Negativity for all the protestations about drama this and drama that, and you hear it from some of the most negative people in the world. You are part of the fuel that feeds that fire. So, it is very important for us to be introspective, to look within ourselves, do our inventory, look in the mirror, and stop looking for people to scapegoat. My to say, excuse me, posts of fools. And, I don't hang out with fools unless they are the traditional mischief-making fool. Now that's another matter, and that's another story for another time. But these are just some of my thoughts that I wanted to share with people. I'm going to be out there a lot this year, and I have a lot of invitations to make appearances and do interview on radio. And things are about to change again. I'm devoting more time to writing and to my 3 proteges and to the better of my students. And when I say that, those that discipline themselves and are willing to make the sacrifice to get the job done. I am Use the Fairy King. I love all of you very much. Be well on your journey. Thank you.